Good morning. Welcome back to the channel. As I'm sure you can see again, absolutely stunning day today. Just been enjoying it this morning with a mate, went for a coffee and a walk. Just chatted a bunch of rubbish for about an hour in the end, in the sun. Come back here, did a bit of stretching outside, get that flexibility going. Still injured with the finger, so what I'm going to be doing today is going to be similar to the last video. Going to be going through some real basic stuff that I can demonstrate whilst I can't really climb, which is frustrating, but it is what it is. But yeah, go through some more technical pointers, a few more climbing definitions for people that have never climbed before, that are new to climbing. I'm hoping there's some of you that are watching this. So yeah, I'll be heading to Euston Wall again, obviously, shortly. And yeah, I'll do a little video in there with some more technical and yeah, just sort of definitions and real basics of climbing, because it's about all I can do at the minute. So I will see you in there. Okay, I'm back in Euston Wall now, and I'm basically just going to go through some real basic definitions of things, things like matching, dead pointing, different types of crimps and ways to hold holds, smearing, flagging. There's going to be a few different phrases. Like I say, this video is really for climbers that have never really climbed before. People that are brand new to climbing, this is going to be for you. If you're not brand new to climbing and you understand those terms, there's no point in you really watching this video unless you want to, just to show a bit of love. Would appreciate that as well. But yeah, I'm just going to go through some real basic terminology, demonstrate what that looks like, and yeah, I hope that people that have never climbed before find this useful. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to talk through is matching. Now what matching essentially means is getting two hands or 2 feet to the same hold and that they're touching the hold. So it's how you finish a route, by getting 2 hands on the last hold in a controlled position. And yeah, essentially whenever someone talks about match feet or match hands on that hold, they basically mean get 2 feet or 2 hands to that hold, or change your feet or change your hands on that hold. So for example, if I start on 2 separate holds on here, if I were to match hands, this is an example of matching hands where I bring my second hands to that hold. If I was to match feet, it might involve me changing my feet on this left one. That's an example of matching feet, an example of matching hands. Very simple. So what I'm going to talk through now is something called smearing. So what smearing is when you place your feet on the wall and you use the wall to gain a bit of tension and friction and help push yourself up the wall. So an example of what that might look like, rather than my foot being on a hold, my foot will be on the wall and I'm using that to keep myself balanced and push off to reach to the next hold. That's called smearing. Okay, another term that you might hear quite frequently when you're climbing is called dead pointing. So what that essentially means is it's a dynamic movement when you pull yourself towards a hold, and you want, rather than having too much momentum that you pull yourself too far into a hold, or you don't have enough momentum that you're falling away from the wall when you catch it, you want to land the dead point, the point where your body stops moving forwards or backwards. It's perfectly still, that dead point. You want that point to be when you reach the hold. So that's called a dead point. I'm going to try and demonstrate it now. It's a good bit of practice. I can only really use one hand, so this is going to be a very good example of what a dead point is, and hopefully I'll get it accurately on this first go. So that was the dead point because I pulled myself in, and the point where I caught the hold, my momentum had completely stopped. Okay, the next thing I'm going to talk through is what's called a drop knee. Now this is much more common on overhanging routes. That's where it's mostly used. It's not as effective, you can't really use them on slabs, but essentially it helps you on an overhanging route reach with your arm closer and get your hips closer to the wall and keep the weight through your feet. So it will look like this. When you drop your knee with your right foot, it allows you to bring your hips closer and reach your right hand closer to the next hold. And the same on the left side. Drop the left knee, that's going to result in you being able to reach the left hand a lot closer to the hold. So I'm just going to demonstrate what that looks like on the wall. I'll use 2 different colour holds just because it's easier for what I'm doing now. Just starting on here. So this is called a drop knee. So I'm currently square to the wall. If I do a drop knee, that's what it looks like. You can see I've pulled my hips into the wall, allowing me to get closer, and then I can pull myself to the next hold much more easily. Okay, the next bit of terminology that I'm going to talk through is what's called a toe hook. Kind of is what it says in its name. You hook your toe on a hold. So an example of where you could use that potentially, or the way a hold will be laid out for you to utilise, is kind of this one here. I mean, this is actually a start hold, but when I get further up the route, what I can do is hook my toe into here, and that's going to anchor me to the wall. I think anchoring is kind of the best terminology to use for what a toe hook does. It basically stops your body from swinging out. So imagine my hand is actually my toe. I'm going to be toe hooking in this position. That's going to stop my body from swinging out. I'm going to demonstrate that from a distance in a second. Okay, so this is what the toe hook is going to look like. I'm going to use a mix of different holds just to demonstrate it. But it's going to anchor my body to the wall. I'm going to be able to pull with my toe. That's going to keep me in position. When I go for the next hold, stop my body swinging out. If I didn't have my foot toe hooking on that, then my body would swing out this way. So that's just keeping me anchored on the wall, making it much more controlled to go to the next hold. Okay, very similarly to the toe hook, you can also do a heel hook in very similar holds. It just depends on how far away the hold is from you. If the hold's a bit further away, it's normally easier to hook with your toe because your leg's further away using that. And then for a heel hook, it's normally easier when the hold is closer to your body. You can obviously come in a lot closer. So what I'm going to do is place my heel in this hold. Once again, it's going to anchor my body to the wall, the same way the toe hook does. But yeah, this one's called a heel hook. Quite hard to get in the position with one hand, but I hope you get the idea of what I could do. Okay, the next thing that I'm going to talk through is called flagging. Now, you've probably seen in some other videos when I talk about this, I talk about flagging quite a lot, and it doesn't mean I'm tired. It can do it sometimes, but that's not what I'm meaning when I say it in climbing videos. In terms of climbing, what it actually means is using your foot that is not on a hold to balance yourself on the wall by pushing into the wall. So an example of what that looks like is like this. So I'm pushing in with my right foot to keep myself from swinging around off the hold. So that's what flagging looks like. So this is a flag. There are different types of flags. You can have a backwards flag where you stop yourself swinging the other way. And then you can also use an inside flag, for example, where your leg, rather than going behind, it goes inside. And that can be another way to stabilise yourself on the wall. But yeah, whenever you're using your other leg to just keep yourself balanced, you're not sort of pushing off the wall like smearing, you're just using it to keep yourself balanced and set in a position. That's called a flag. Like I say, a few different types: backwards, front flag, inside flag. But yeah, that's there to just keep you balanced as you go up the route. Okay, another bit of terminology that you might hear quite frequently is called bumping, where you bump your hand to the next hold. So in a lot of climbs, you go right hand to a hold, and then you go with your left hand, and then you go with your right hand, and then you go with your left hand. What I'm going to demonstrate in a second, and what I've done quite a few times in this video because I can't use my left hand, is called bumping. So it's where you go for one hold with your right hand, and then you go with the same hand again to the next hold rather than changing hands. It's called bumping. So as I've already demonstrated before, example of what that looks like. I bump the right hand because I've gone from one hold to the next one with my right hand again. That's called bumping. Okay, the next thing I'm going to talk through now is different ways of holding onto a hold. Specifically, holding onto crimps. So you might hear me say things like, I'm holding it in a half crimp, or I'm holding it with an open hand, or open palm. But yeah, essentially what I mean by those terminologies I'm going to demonstrate now, just using this little foot chip here. So there's three different types of crimps basically. So full crimp is when my fingers are really flexing here. I put my thumb over the top of my fingers. Hopefully you can see that from the angle. And this is kind of where I'm pulling the hardest. That's when I'm going to utilise this to get maximum power from that position. So that's what a full crimp looks like. Half crimp, obviously, somewhere halfway between that and the open palm, looks something like this. So my fingers are more or less at 90 degrees where they're bent, still holding onto the same hold, and my thumb isn't on top this time, it's just resting to the side. So that's what a half crimp looks like. And the last one is open drag or open palm, whatever you want to call it. So my hand is much more stretched out, my fingers are much more straight, and it rests on the hold like this. So that's 3 different ways to hold on to a crimp and what they look like. In terms of how you need to use them, if you're literally just starting climbing, there's not going to be too many different ways that you need to use that at all. Most of the holds that you're going to be using are going to be jugs, so much bigger holds for you to hold on to. But yeah, when you progress up, you start to use crimps a lot more, and there are 3 different terminologies for describing how to hold on to a crimp and what they look like. Okay, probably going to end the video there. There's not really much more for me to talk through. I appreciate that's probably quite boring, to be perfectly honest with you. It's quite boring to film as well, but I'm just hoping that there's people that are watching some of my videos and don't understand the climbing terminology that I'm using. It's essentially for you guys that have never climbed and don't really understand some of the words that are climbing specific that I'm using. Just trying to make it as clear for you as possible, because I can't really do anything else right now in terms of content because of my finger, which is healing. Still waiting to hear back from the doctor about next steps, so I'm hoping it's going to be no longer than a week that I'm off for, because already scraping the barrel for content of what I'm making for now, so can't really do with another week of that, but I'm sure I'll put something else together. Keep trying to post something once a day, but yeah, I just hope it was useful for anyone that's never climbed before. If it was, really appreciate you leaving a like, comment, subscribing, following my socials. It really helps me out a lot, so appreciate all your support. And yeah, as always, grab life by the plums, and I will see you in the next one.